You've probably seen it before. Someone crouched near a park bench or under a street lamp, quietly laying out scraps for a pack of stray dogs. It's the kind of everyday kindness that makes you smile and move on without a second thought. But what if you looked closer? What if the scraps weren't food at all, but pieces of a human body? That's what happened in one of India's most disturbing murder cases, one that sent shockwaves through the country. It was the case of a man who called himself a food blogger, but fed stray dogs the mutilated body parts of his girlfriend. This is the brutal story of Shraddha Walkar and the man who killed her, Aftab Amin Poonawalla. It all started quietly. On October 6, 2022, a father named Vikas Walkar walked into a police station and filed a missing persons report. His daughter, Shraddha, had vanished. She hadn't contacted him in months. Her friends in Delhi had tried to reach out too, but got no response. That's when they called her father, and that's when the panic set in. Vikas tried to find her himself. Nothing. No leads, no clues. Just silence, so he turned to the police. By October 12, the case was transferred to Manikpur police, and officers began tracing her steps, starting with the person who knew her best, her boyfriend, Aftab. When they first questioned him, he was calm. His words were collected, even cooperative. But with each round of questioning, his story started to shift. Tiny inconsistencies, timeline errors, contradictions. It didn't add up. That's when the police decided to search his apartment. At first glance, nothing stood out. It was a modest flat, decorated like any other. Simple furniture, photos on the wall, shelves with books and dishes. But something was off about him. One officer noticed Aftab kept glancing toward the fridge over and over, like he was guarding something. So they opened it. And what they found was straight out of a nightmare. 14 plastic bags crammed with rotting human remains. Aftab didn't flinch. One officer stared at him and asked, "Where's the rest?" Aftab looked up, calmly, eerily, and said, "I fed her to the dogs." So who were they? Who was Shraddha? And what led to this? Shraddha Walkar was born in 1995 in Maharashtra, India. She grew up in a family that later fractured. After her parents' divorce, she stayed with her mother and brother in Vasai, a city in Palghar district. People remembered her as bubbly, full of light. She studied at a convent school, then enrolled in a BMM course at Viva Institute of Technology in Virar. But for reasons unknown, she dropped out. Despite her parents' separation, Shraddha stayed close to her father, Vikas, who ran an electronics repair business. From the outside, her life seemed ordinary, quiet, hopeful, just like so many other young women in India. And then she met Aftab. After dropping out of college, Shraddha didn't sit idle. She started working at a call center for a multinational company in Malad, a bustling suburb in Mumbai. She was young, working hard, trying to find her footing in the world. She made a few new friends at work, but still, something was missing. Loneliness has a way of creeping in, even when you're surrounded by people. One day, a colleague saw her scrolling aimlessly on her phone during lunch and casually suggested, "Why don't you just try a dating app? You're not signing a contract, just make a friend, see where it goes." Shraddha was hesitant at first, but eventually she downloaded Bumble just to look. For a while, nothing clicked. The conversations felt dull, dry, no spark. Until one day, in 2018, she matched with a 30-year-old man named Aftab Amin Poonawalla. They were both from Vasai, and oddly enough, both had a background in BMM studies. He'd been at LS Raheja College. And as fate would have it, they were even working at the same call center. It felt meant to be. Shraddha believed in signs. She believed that when two paths kept crossing like this, maybe something divine was at work. Maybe Aftab was the one. They got close fast, and before long, they were in a relationship. By 2019, Shraddha made a big decision. She moved out of her family home to live with Aftab. Her family wasn't just unhappy about it, they were furious. She was their only daughter, and they had dreams for her, dreams that didn't include living with a man they didn't trust, especially not in an interfaith relationship. Shraddha was a Hindu, while Aftab was a Muslim. So they thought she was rushing into something dangerous, and in hindsight, maybe they weren't wrong. Her father Vikas claimed he noticed things, bruises on Shraddha's arms, discoloration around her eyes, but every time he asked, she'd just smile and say, "I slipped on the stairs," or "It's nothing, Dad." He didn't buy it. Vikas believed Aftab was manipulating his daughter, convincing her to lie, pulling her away from her family, maybe even hurting her. And while no formal police report was filed at the time, friends and neighbors recalled frequent fights between the couple, loud arguments, things being thrown, especially when it came to money. But Aftab told a different story. He said things were peaceful in the beginning, loving even, until Shraddha started bringing up a topic he didn't want to face: marriage. Shraddha, now in her mid-20s, wanted stability, a home, a future, a family of her own. But every time she brought it up, Aftab dodged the question. He said they weren't ready. Shraddha kept pushing, he kept resisting, and the tension between them started to grow. Her family, especially her parents, were firmly against the idea of Shraddha marrying Aftab. And not just because of religion. To them, this man was a stranger, a man she met on an app, a man who, in their eyes, had pulled their daughter away and changed her. In the spring of 2022, maybe trying to fix things or maybe just to escape, the couple decided to take a backpacking trip across Himachal Pradesh. For a while, it seemed like they were healing, just two people in the mountains, away from the noise, trying to find peace. And then they made another big decision, to leave Vasai and move to Delhi. They believed a bigger city would give them more opportunities, especially for Aftab, who wanted to pursue content creation and food blogging. On May 15th, they packed up and moved into a rented flat in Mehrauli, South Delhi, quietly and secretly. They didn't tell Shraddha's father, not even her uncle, whom she'd always been close to. Everyone thought she was still in Bangalore. But in truth, Shraddha had vanished from their lives, physically and emotionally, and soon she would vanish for real. Just 3 days after moving into their new flat in Delhi, everything unraveled. It started with another fight, familiar territory by now. But this time, Shraddha once again brought up marriage. She wanted answers, clarity. She wanted Aftab to commit. But instead of listening, Aftab snapped. He accused her of cheating. The shouting got louder, the room tighter, the tension unbearable. And then Aftab lost control. He lunged forward and wrapped his hands around her neck. No weapons, no pre-planning, just raw rage, according to him. Within minutes, Shraddha was dead. And once it was over, once she lay lifeless on the floor, panic set in. What now? He paced the room. His mind raced. Then a chilling memory surfaced. Words he himself had screamed during one of their fights. "I'll kill you and chop your body." Now, he'd done it. So that night, he went out, calm, methodical. He bought a hammer, 2 knives, and a shovel. And then he butchered her body, 35 pieces. He removed her liver and intestines, blending them into a pulp to feed the stray dogs. Later, police would find bone fragments still lodged inside his kitchen mixer. He stored the larger pieces in plastic bags and stuffed them in the fridge. Some parts he carried to the nearby Mehrauli forest, bit by bit, scattering them like they were trash. He skipped days to avoid patterns, cut pieces smaller so the dogs wouldn't struggle to eat them. Shraddha's friends started to worry. No one saw her. When friends reached out to her father in early October, he was shocked. He thought Shraddha was in Bangalore, but now he realized no one knew where she was. That's when Vikas Walkar filed a missing persons report on October 6. The case was soon transferred to Manikpur police, and officers began piecing together her last known location. That's when they found out Shraddha had moved to Delhi. By October 12, they were on the phone with Aftab. At first, Aftab played it cool. He said Shraddha had simply left after a fight in May, that she was maybe with another man now, that he hadn't heard from her since. But the officers noticed his story kept changing. Small details didn't match. On November 3rd, they recorded his statement. He said the same thing again. She left, he didn't know where she went, she had her phone but left her stuff behind. But something wasn't right. Witnesses contradicted his claims. The timelines didn't add up. So on November 8th, Assistant Inspector Sachin Zanab flew to Delhi. He wanted to see Aftab face to face. Aftab stuck to his script. She left on May 22nd, took her phone, haven't heard from her since. But the inspector presented evidence, texts, witness statements, GPS logs. And slowly, Aftab crumbled. He broke down and confessed. And when they searched his apartment, everything they feared was confirmed. There, tucked inside the fridge, were 14 plastic bags filled with rotting human remains. And as the police pushed him, Aftab revealed the gruesome truth. He strangled Shraddha. He chopped her body. He bought a new fridge just to store the remains. He used a kitchen blender to grind up her organs. He made multiple trips to Merali Forest, scattering body parts and feeding others to stray dogs. Inside that flat, Aftab had gone to extreme lengths to hide what he'd done. To cover up the smell of death seeping from the fridge, he filled the place with air fresheners, incense sticks, and potpourri. He hung them all over the apartment. Anyone walking in might have just thought he liked strong scents, but behind those fragrances was the rotting body of the woman he once claimed to love. The police didn't stop at the fridge. They sent teams into the Chahatarpur forest, where Aftab admitted he'd scattered her remains. Police dogs were brought in to sniff out bone fragments, personal items, anything that might have belonged to Shraddha. They found 10 to 13 bones, mutilated, weathered, hidden under layers of soil and leaves. Back at the flat, they found blood stains in the kitchen, likely from the dismemberment. Those blood samples were sent for DNA testing, along with samples from Shraddha's family to confirm the identity. And the results were clear. They matched Shraddha's father and brother. Meanwhile, investigators scoured CCTV footage, both from around Aftab's building and the forest paths. Even though Aftab confessed, they didn't take his word at face value. His story kept changing. The police knew better than to trust a killer's memory. And then came the digital evidence. On May 31st, forensic teams found an old Instagram chat, a message sent after Shraddha's death, from her account. And that meant one thing. Someone was pretending to be her. They traced the IP address. The phone was pinging from Merali, Aftab's neighborhood. That alone was enough to confront him again at the detention center. But that wasn't even the biggest break. The real blow came when they discovered a bank transaction. On May 26, 4 days after Aftab claimed Shraddha left, there was a transfer of 54,000 rupees from her account to his. The location still in Merali. And that was the lie that broke the dam. Aftab had claimed she was unreachable since May 22nd. But here she was, or rather her bank account, still active 4 days later. The timing, the location, and the amount all tied him to her death. Now, all that was left was why. Why would Aftab do this? Why kill her? And how could he bring himself to cut her body into tiny pieces, mince her organs, and feed them to dogs? As the media storm erupted, journalists began digging deep. Some tracked down neighbors who allegedly overheard fights. One of them claimed the two were arguing about household items, buying or moving furniture. The argument escalated. Accusations flew. Aftab allegedly yelled that Shraddha didn't trust him, that she questioned his commitment, and in that moment, something snapped. But others believed it wasn't spontaneous at all. Some reporters unearthed search history from Aftab's devices, searches on how to dispose of a body, how to clean blood, and how to create a perfect alibi. There were even claims that Aftab had purchased the knives and fridge the day before the murder. That pointed to premeditation. Investigators also examined Aftab's Bumble account, hoping to trace who he might have been meeting after the murder. Maybe he slipped up, maybe he told someone, but so far, they found nothing useful. And then there was this. Before he worked at the same call center as Shraddha, Aftab had trained as a chef. That detail chilled investigators to the bone. It explained the precision in how he carved her body, the methodical dismemberment, the grinding of organs. It wasn't rage. It was calculated. Even the landlord noticed something odd. That month, the water bill spiked, much higher than usual. Police believe it was from Aftab cleaning up after the murder, washing blood off the floors, the walls, the utensils. Police also found 5 knives, believed to be the ones he used to cut her up. Using over 50 witness testimonies, including Shraddha's friends and family, Delhi police compiled a 6,000-page charge sheet. It was filed in Saket Court, 75 days after the investigation began. Tuesday, November 22nd, 2022. The courtroom in Delhi was packed. Everyone waited to hear what Aftab Amin Poonawalla had to say. He stood in front of the judge and claimed the murder wasn't planned, not premeditated, just a fight gone too far, a sudden heated argument, he said. And then the defense team made a surprising move. They said Aftab's own family would testify against him. It turned out Shraddha had contacted Aftab's mother several times before her death. She had asked for help, pleaded even, told her about the abuse, told her she was scared. But no one stepped in. On November 24th, it was revealed that back in 2020, Shraddha had actually filed a report with Mumbai police, saying Aftab had beaten her and even threatened to kill her and chop her body into pieces. The exact thing that happened. But the case was quietly closed. Shraddha had signed a note saying things were resolved, so no one followed up. Fast forward to Monday, November 28th, Aftab was sent in for a polygraph test. During the test, he calmly admitted to dumping the body, feeding stray dogs, and even dating other women afterward, like nothing happened. And his demeanor was cold and steady, no remorse at all. But the moment he was escorted out of the forensic lab in Rohini, Delhi, chaos erupted. A mob of at least 15 men, swords in hand, attacked the police van carrying Aftab. They screamed, "He chopped our sister into 35 pieces. We will chop him into 70. The police had to fire warning shots in the air just to push them back. 2 men were detained, Kuldeep Thakur and Nigam Gujar, and their car was impounded. One of them shouted as he was dragged away, "We just wanted justice for Shraddha." The next day, Aftab asked for more protection. He was scared. And Aftab was sent to Tihar jail under tight surveillance. At first, he was only allowed out of his cell for 2 hours a day. But on March 15th, 2024, after a request from his lawyer, the court allowed him 8 hours, like other inmates. The case exploded across Indian media. People weren't just angry at Aftab. They were furious at the Mumbai police for closing Shraddha's 2020 abuse complaint, furious at the landlord for letting a non-married couple live together without question. Even politicians got involved. Kaushal Kishore, Union Minister of State for Housing, declared women should stay away from live-in relationships. Most of the time, women are the victims. And some right-wing groups labeled the incident as an example of love jihad, a term used by certain factions to allege that Muslim men lure Hindu women into relationships with the intent of conversion. Shraddha's own father echoed the claim. He believed his daughter had fallen prey to love jihad. However, investigations did not find any evidence to support claims of religious coercion or conversion in this case. As of now, Aftab's sentencing still hasn't been finalized. The court is still hearing witness testimony, reviewing digital evidence, and preparing for final arguments. Shraddha's family, especially her father, wanted the death penalty, the maximum punishment under Indian law. But before that could happen, Vikas Walkar died. In February 9, 2025, he suffered a cardiac arrest in Vasai. He died without ever seeing justice fully delivered for his daughter. But before his passing in 2024, Vikas created something lasting, the Shraddha Walkar Charitable Trust, a foundation focused on women's safety, providing free legal aid to underprivileged families seeking justice. Now their legacy lives on through that trust. Across India, memorials were held, protests erupted again, and people lit candles for Shraddha, vowing not to forget her name, not to forget her voice, not to forget how it all could have been prevented. So, was this really just a crime of passion, or was there something more to it? Was Shraddha failed by just one man, or by an entire system? Let me know your thoughts in the comments, and if you believe in keeping Shraddha's memory alive, share her story. Because she deserved more than just a headline. She deserved a future. And that is all for today. Thanks for watching.